Jake, thank you very much indeed. I thought probably before we get started, before you listen to me talking or we pass over to my colleague Al Locke, it's probably best if we show you a quick video. This was taken at one of our recent Academy days, which are designed to allow maybe people who've never thought they could ever take part in a track day to come along and experience what it's like to take part in motor racing. So let me leave you with this quick video and I'll be back in a second. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit of an idea about what we do, who we are. I think in terms of the best way to describe Team Brit, we're made up of injured and disabled drivers who embody the ethos to believe and achieve. So all our drivers have either a physical or mental disability or mental health issue, and we want to use motorsport to help aid in their recovery and aid in their progress as a racing driver. One thing's very important to point out, we are a limited company, we're not a charity, and the great thing about motorsport, it's one of the only sports where you compete on a level playing field. There's not a race for the disabled drivers, there's not a race, just like you would at the Olympics where they have a disabled running race or a disabled swimming race, motorsport allows people to compete on an even playing field. And that's what we're really proud of, and the technology Al will talk about in a second describes how we're able to do that. We want to be able to make racing history, be the first all-disabled team to race the Le Mans 24-hour race. There's been several other teams that have had maybe one disabled driver. We want all our drivers to be there. We were very lucky last year. We got to take part in the Le Mans Festival with our Aston Martin. So we're already well on the way to being where we want to get to. It's just that next step as we look to take the step through GT racing and be able to compete in the World Endurance Championship and ultimately the Le Mans 24 hours. I'm now going to pass you over to Al Locke, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about our technology, and I'll also have the chance to come round and talk to you all and show you the steering wheel to give you a feel for how our technology works in the cars. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. So I want to first talk about why we developed this technology. Take a corner like this. This is bus stop at Spa. The conventional hand control technology that was available previously was just a push-pull lever. So if you can imagine the steering wheel, you've got a steering wheel there, you've got a lever to the right of it, which you push to brake and you pull to accelerate. You've then got to somehow control the gears. So imagine coming to this corner at high speed. You're braking maybe from 150 mile an hour down to 30 mile an hour, depending on how quickly you're getting around here. You're also shifting down from perhaps 6th gear down to 2nd gear. At the same time, you're almost on full lock on the steering wheel. As you go into the corner, you're braking, you want to trail brake through the corner and get back on the accelerator. Physically, this isn't possible with conventional hand controls. So what we developed was the steering wheel that Mike's going to hand round. Now this is one of our earlier wheels, one of our development wheels. The other wheels are out on track at the moment. So as you'll see in here, we need the brake, the throttle and the gear change all in quick succession whilst you're keeping control of the steering wheel. Very difficult. The only way to do it is to have everything right in front of you with your hands on it at the whole time. It was also obviously important that it was safe and reliable, and that the performance that we got from this was equal to a driver who's using their legs. So the technical obstacles that we had. Firstly, it was the control surfaces. So how do we control that steering wheel? What do we use? We started off with thumb paddles on the front, and what we found is that drivers were getting tired, their thumbs were hurting, and there wasn't the ability to control the car properly. We tried various different formats of the steering wheel, and the one that you'll see shortly was the one that we ultimately settled on as being the best. The throttle's quite easy. The difficult thing was the braking. So we had to develop a system that could be controlled electronically and allow the car to slow down from high speeds. We then had to develop a way that we could actuate the gearboxes. Now on a car like this is our GT4 car, it's an Aston Martin, so it comes with an ASM gearbox, which is kind of like an automatic gearbox that you can control the gears in. So integrating the technology with that was quite easy. I'll talk a little more in a minute about another technology that we developed for a manual gearbox. In addition to that, obviously it needed to have system redundancy and fault awareness, which means that it needs to be safe. It needs to know if there's a problem with the system, and it needs to alert the driver to that fact. So for that, we used different communication monitoring, and we used pressure control and shift blocking. And what I mean by the shift blocking is the system's pneumatic. So it uses for the gears, for most cars, and the brakes, air pressure. If you've not got much air pressure left, you want to be storing that air pressure for the brakes. So at a certain point, if the air pressure dies, we save that for one final braking event, and we block the driver from shifting gears. And then the final thing was integration with existing vehicle systems. And from here, I mean throttle control, which obviously is electronic, and things like ABS and traction control. So how do we go about it? I've mentioned already the steering wheel that Mike's handing around somewhere. The ergonomics was the first thing. So what we've got there is the brake paddle on the right-hand side behind the steering wheel. On the opposite side, we've got the throttle paddle. We've got up and down gears, and you see the silver blocks on there. They're rocker switches, so you tip up for upshift and you tip down for downshift. There's one on each side because we work with drivers who may only have one arm or might only have one thumb. Drivers that have been typically injured in war come back with fairly difficult injuries. And so to having it on both sides allows them to use the pedals for the brake and the throttle, and then to use the gear shift on either side. You can't see on that picture, but we also have a clutch paddle on the wheel that's going round. So the braking system's an electronic input. There's sensors on each of those paddles, which we then use to control pneumatic pressure, which then acts on a hydraulic system. So there's three kind of stages there. You've got the electronics, you've got the pneumatics, and then you've got the hydraulics. There's a lot there that can go wrong. The gear selection on the BMW. So we're running manual cars in the 116 trophy. We have been this season, and we will be next season. When we entered that championship, we were given the opportunity of using a larger engine, the 1.8 engine, as opposed to the 1.6 engine, which everyone else is using, and the automatic gearbox. We'd have an issue there if we were using that. If we were winning races, people would say that we were winning them because we had the larger engine, and if we were losing them, people would say we're losing the races because we've got a rubbish gearbox. So we decided to stick with our ethos of keeping everything on a level playing field. We kept the same engine as everybody, the same gearbox as everybody, and we developed a system to shift that gearbox using pneumatics, which some gearboxes are easy to do. Unfortunately, the BMW is a little more tricky. It doesn't use conventional levers. It uses a command shaft that not only goes in and out of the gearbox, but also rotates, which is a fairly tricky motion to achieve with pneumatics. But we got there in the end, and it's a good system. This is kind of a system overview of a lot of the system that we use. What you won't see on here is the gearbox, because that's different from each car's. The blue lines you see are pneumatics, the dotted lines you see there are just electronic signal lines, and the solid lines you see there are CAN bus lines. CAN bus is really important for us. It's the technology communication protocol that we use to communicate between all of the modules. Where do we want to go with it? Well, the future developments that we want to add on to it are tactile feedback for the ABS. What does that mean? When someone using their legs puts their foot on the pedal and they brake hard, they'll feel the ABS kicking in. You feel that pulse back through the pedal. You don't get that through hand controls. And so we want some way of alerting the driver that the ABS is being activated. And I think the best way of doing that is to have some kind of vibration on the pedal so they can feel, they know straight away that the ABS is kicking in and they should back off the brakes. The next thing is closed loop braking. That's a difficult thing. So at the moment, we're just modulating pressure in the pneumatic system by position of the electronic paddle. That's all well and good, but there are a lot of other variables in braking, and so we want to close that loop completely and have the braking system modulate its pressure based on the deceleration of the vehicle rather than based on the pressure input. And last is the upgrade to the CAN communication protocol at CAN FD. The CAN protocol that we use is a normal 500k CAN, and it's not really designed for real time. It's quick enough, but there's not enough of a space in that protocol for the information that we want to be transmitting through the system. So we want to upgrade it to CAN FD for these reasons here. So thanks for listening. If anyone's got any questions or any additions, if anyone's got any ideas, we're always open to listening to other people's opinions of the system. There's always better ways of doing things, and we're constantly striving to improve this system. We've also got 3 cars here this weekend, so if anyone wants to come and have a go, we've got a full motion simulator that you can try the hand controls on, and if you want to go out on circuit, we've got 3 cars that you're welcome to come and try and to drive. Thanks for listening.